Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. My name is Louis Mendez. I hope you guys are well on your Sunday morning. On this week's show, then, we will, of course, be looking back at yesterday's first league defeat of the season, 1-0 reverse, up at London Road against Peterborough United. Joining me to do that, first up, top right, making her first Charlton Live appearance of the season, Tash Everett. How you doing, Tash?
Morning, Louis. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Still coming to terms with the fact that our unbeaten league record is over after 2 games. But you know, we'll deal with that. And also, bottom of the screen there is Mr. Tom Walling. How you doing, Tom, this morning?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, hating a graph again already, but apart from that, all good.
Yeah, actually, I'm not going to publish the graph because we can't do it every game after 2 games. But we are still just outside the playoffs on it, so might not be getting the 138 points or whatever it was last week. But we're still on track. A defeat yesterday at Peterborough. Then, so we're going to hear the goal shortly. We're going to hear, of course, the reaction from the Addicts boss Dean Holden. We also want to hear from you guys. Morning to everyone. In the stream, I can see Sid's in there. All Hell Let Loose is, of course, in there as a very eager Charlton Live fan. Pete's in there. Morning to you, Shiny Phil and Paul Davenport as well. Good to see you all on the stream. Get involved with today's show. Let us know what you made of yesterday's performance. What do you think yesterday told us about our side? Because certainly at full time yesterday, anyone reading through social media was getting a wide variety of views. Certainly, some people who were there, saw the performance, were felt there were things to take from it, but also we didn't score. We gave away a sloppy goal. There's elements to it. So let us know what you made of the performance. You can also email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk, or you can tweet us at Charlton Live as well. We'll try and get to as many of your messages as possible this morning. Later on in the show, we've got our guest fans. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Carl and Jacob Bratton. They're going to join us, a father and son double act, who I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time on the train back yesterday. If we get a chance later on in the show as well, we will look ahead to Tuesday evening's home game with Bristol Rovers, if we've got enough players to put a side out, judging by the amount of injuries we seem to be picking up at this moment in time. Then, just before we hear the goals, then, Tom, give me your views on yesterday's game. I won't go with a leading question. Just tell me what you made of it.
I think largely I left encouraged. I think, or maybe not encouraged, but I largely left feeling like there's still something in this side that could do something this year. And I said that after the Orient game, and I was very clear I didn't expect us to win every game off the back of that. And I don't expect us to lose all the big games off the back of yesterday. I thought, considering how far behind them we were last year, considering the injuries, considering Alfie May is new to this team and we're playing a new system, I think when you factor all of that in and the fact the goal basically came from an error on our side, I think there were lots of positive signs there. I think, like Nath said on Twitter, I don't like losing, and I was as pissed off as anybody at the end of the game. But we had chances. I thought in that second half we were much the better side. I don't think either of us deserved to win it. And I think if we manage to keep pace with Peterborough for the season, we're going to be there or thereabouts. And I don't think there was enough of a gap yesterday to suggest we're not going to do that. So I understand, particularly at full time, people being annoyed that we lost. I was. But I think if you were there or if you saw the game, I think there are enough encouraging signs to suggest that this team will click and this team will be okay. I think we need some signings. I think that's clear. And we've probably said that since whenever that first Thursday show was. But yeah, I wasn't as down in the dumps as I have been when I've been to London Road previous seasons. And I think there are positive signs there. I think it's just taking a little while for us to settle as a team, and the injuries aren't helping that.
Yeah, I think it's weird that I felt we were better yesterday in defeat than we were there last season when we drew 0-0. But I mean, as Tom sort of alluded to there, Tash, you can take the good parts of yesterday, but it also sort of highlighted where we are short. Maybe a partner for Alfie, maybe someone who can create chances other than Corey Blackett-Taylor. Like it was almost a perfect indication of what we want to be, but also why we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we're that far away from, like, as Tom said, it was actually more encouraging in a backwards kind of way, even though we lost, because we're not that far away from probably where we want to be. Obviously, I feel like we find ourselves saying this every single season, being like, you get to the start of the season, we haven't got the squad. We haven't had enough time to gel, haven't got everyone through the door, but that just seems to be the way we are these days. But yeah, I don't think we're that far away. Like I said on Twitter yesterday, like, you know, we signed one of the league's best goal scorers, but we still can't score a goal. Like, that's not Alfie May's fault. That's just to take in time. But he needs someone next to him that is a striker or centre forward, not plucking up a midfielder or a winger. But yeah, I don't think we're that far away. But I think, although it was frustrating to Newport and losing again yesterday, in some ways, I kind of think if the hierarchy were, you know, thinking, oh, we probably do need to make some more signings, it's definitely pushed them towards, we need to do this now and not wait for Leeburn to come back to play again, play up top with Alfie. Like, you need to bring someone in, whether that's in on loan. Yeah, can't be waiting around for that to click into place.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, it's still 2.5 weeks until transfer deadline day, which we've just worked out is going to be a Thursday, which is going to make that show very interesting for that week. But yeah, can you wait that long? That's part of the question. We've got loads of great comments already coming in on YouTube, which we'll come to in a few moments' time. But as is tradition, we'll have a quick listen back to the goal from Charlton TV. The commentator, as always, was Mr. Terry Smith.
Nothing really on for him at the minute. Fourth official telling him to stop moving, which he's ignoring completely. Now throws it, looking for Clark Harris. A header from Ness into the, Jones into Kamara, but he's lost out to Poku. Little 1-2 there. Cipriano scores for the home side. It's another goal of Charlton's making. Throw came in. It looked like we had it. We concede possession, and then a quick 1-2 on the edge of the box. Release Cipriano. Free in the penalty area to slide it past Maynard Brewer for the opening goal. A minute into added time.
There we go. That's Tell then on Charlton TV yesterday, just with the goal commentary. And we should talk about the goal itself. It came at the end of probably a fairly cagey first half, where we had the first couple of good chances, but actually Peterborough probably had 3 good openings themselves. A couple of headers that went over the bar, and that great save from Maynard Brewer from the curler from the far side, which I think was Poku, who hit it, Tom. But bad moment for Pan Kamara, though. He put his hands up on Twitter after the game and apologised for his mistake. But, you know, we'll hear from Dean. These are the sort of mistakes we need to cut out. But also, I was thinking about the quality that Peterborough showed on the edge of our area to pounce on that mistake, and then 3 passes ripped us open. I feel like we don't do that enough as well. I feel like that's where they are a step ahead of us at the moment. Like, they've gelled, they know how to move the ball a bit quicker than we do, and they punished us for a mistake.
Yeah, I went to the game with my mate who lives up there. He's not a Charlton fan or a Peterborough fan, but he knows football as well. And he was saying, and obviously he's got a bit more of a neutral perspective than me. I think what he said kind of summed up the point you're making. Our attacks and our time in the final third was probably more sustained than Peterborough's was. We were there for longer. We were there for more periods, but it didn't really end in anything. Whereas theirs, they pounced on mistakes. They pounced on things, and they're maybe only in our third for sort of 10 seconds at a time, maybe less, but ultimately got a shot away at the end of it. And that goal, again, perfect summary of it. We made a mistake. They pounced on it, 3 passes, and they'd slotted it home. And yeah, you're right. We don't do that at the moment. Now, again, I know that Alfie May is a very different type of striker. He's obviously not got the height of someone like Miles or even Jaden, going back a couple of seasons as well. He likes to run in behind. We are relying on playing out to width and Corey and taking players on the byline and getting balls in. It's going to take us a while to gel. But as I say, even particularly in that first half, when we were getting forward, we had plenty of time in that final third and just delivered very little. And as for Pan, I thought in the second half yesterday, you could see the player that he is. And there are signs there. And considering he hadn't played 90 minutes, I can't remember when he said it was, but it's been a long time. I think for him to get through 90 minutes and probably grow into the game in the second half, possibly fueled by the fact that he'd made that error and wanted to make amends, I think that's very encouraging. That midfield obviously isn't going to be settled for a while because Fraser's had to go out and obviously Payne came in, and whether that swaps again for Tuesday night because Pan hasn't played 90 minutes for a long time, you'd probably expect. So again, the settled midfield is maybe going to take a while as well. But yeah, I think going back to your original point, that that sort of cutting edge. You know, when they've had a striker like they've got, I know he didn't score the goal, but somebody who's been there for a little while and scores goals consistently, it makes a big difference. And when we're, you know, we probably would have assumed we would start the season with May and Lieberman, and obviously that hasn't been the case. Now then you look at the ownership and why haven't we brought someone in? But it's not as easy as that to find someone who's going to score us 10 to 15 goals. And we haven't quite got used to Alfie May yet. As Tash was saying, he's on we've started him off on a goal drought. So yeah, look, it's not the end of the world. We're not cutting teams open yet, but that doesn't mean we can't. That doesn't mean the potential's not there. Corey Blackett-Taylor in 2 games has beaten his man about 25 times. If we get a striker on the end of half of those, you know, we're winning those 2 games by 6 goals. So, you know, and obviously we're not going to do that every week either. But there are signs there. It's just we're not quite there yet.
I mean, so Tom's mentioned Corey there. Are we too reliant on Corey Blackett-Taylor to create chances? Because in the first half, when he was quite literally got to half an hour in, I forgot he was playing, and someone put something on Twitter with his name in. I was like, oh yeah, I looked up there, he was on the far side to where I was sitting, and I was like, oh yeah, he was on the pitch. But then when he actually livened up for 10 minutes in that first half, we had 2 decent chances, good save after the header from Kamara, and then in the second half, it felt like at times he was unplayable, but he was Corey being Corey in that he wasn't getting his shots on target, which he knows he will need to improve upon. But I just feel like, you know, I mean, Fraser wasn't in the team yesterday, but even when he is, he's not that as creative as I feel like he could be. I don't know if there's anyone else in that side now, especially now that Tyrese is out, that will create enough chances for us. We did seem to be slightly over reliant on him yesterday, Tash.
Yeah, and I think we said this those times last season as well. You kind of want to hope that you can get those goals in midfield too, which hopefully in time Kamara can be that sort of player. But yeah, I think the change in the system doesn't help. I mean, we've said it like time and time again. Like Corey Blackett-Taylor is not playing in the position he's probably used to, and to be fair to him, he's done pretty well considering he's not a defender, and he's still like obviously we're trying to get that balance between wanting him in the team and wanting chances and not losing that attacking threat. But equally, yeah, trying to bend him into a position that probably isn't natural. But yeah, as you said, obviously the injuries aren't helping. Campbell obviously would have eased that. I think we're still missing a player like Raksaki. So people mention it in the comments, like he would have someone, I think, how Lewis said it, like he would have pounced on chances, like Peterborough pounced on Kamara's chance. Yes, his mistake yesterday, and we're just missing that. Basically, I don't think we've replaced Jez sufficiently yet, to be honest.
Yeah, I was confident that in terms of pure number of goals, that Alfie will pick up the slack that Jez has gone. But obviously, in terms of creating those chances like Jez did last season, because he was high in the assist stake as well. Yeah, that's clearly something we need on that other side. Let's have a look at some of the comments. Dan says, we're lacking so much depth, especially people to come on and change the game. Got so much work to do in the transfer window. And yeah, it certainly was the case yesterday. I mean, I was looking at that bench during the second half yesterday, and you're thinking, right, who's a game changer to come on? Charlie Kirk? Probably not, if we're being honest. Tayo Aiden, on paper, maybe when he's a bit fitter, but he overhit a couple of passes yesterday. He was all right. He weren't bad, but he had, I think, my resounding memory would be with that last-minute free kick when Ashley was up and he just sent it straight out. Dan Carnew's obviously still sort of growing into senior football as well. So yeah, and the other thing was basically everyone who was fit and available to be in the squad yesterday was in the squad yesterday. There was no one available. Everyone else was injured, basically. So we took what we had to London Road with us. James Mads is saying, morning all. I hope everyone isn't predicting the end is nigh after the last 2 games, just as we weren't world champions after Orient. It did tell us, though, that we need to do more business before the end of the window. Yeah, don't get too high and don't get too low after a win or a defeat, Tom, was obviously the message during the Curbs days. And that's sort of where we need to be. I mean, like we said after the Orient game, it wasn't swashbuckling. It wasn't all one-way traffic. It wasn't, we were creating loads and loads of chances. And we know that there's still gaps in the squad. So I like to think we didn't overreact to Orient, and we're not going to overreact to Peterborough today. But like as Mad said, you got to sort of try and stay cool and collected. And there's 2.5 weeks of the transfer window. This is where the new ownership are really going to be tested now, and this is where they'll be judged probably on what happens between now and the end of the window might give us some sort of indication of what their intentions are, or certainly what their firepower is for us in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think I don't think we've signed anybody since our first show, not that I can think of, and we said then we need probably 3 or 4 more, and obviously that hasn't changed. Plus the injuries now, so you're like, do we even need a couple more to protect for that? So I saw some people kind of saying, and there's 2 ways to look at this, right? The truth on paper is Peterborough away is one of the toughest games you have to go to this season. The depressing thing is saying Peterborough away is one of the toughest games is not nice as a Charlton fan, but that's the reality of being in this division this season. So, and even I saw people saying, well, Orient got pumped yesterday. Yeah, but Orient came to their first game at this level in a while to a London club, sold out away end at our ground. So, of course, that was going to be a tougher game. So I think there's only so much you can actually read into the games themselves and the results. But when you look at the performances, as you say, we were largely untested against Orient. I know we didn't blow them away, but we won the game. And really, they scored from a mistake yesterday. They had a couple of other chances. And then, I know he hit the post late on and there were a couple of chances late, but we were pushing at that point. So you can kind of write them off. On another day, one of Corey Blackett-Taylor's cut-in and shots creeps in the far post and you go out of there with a point. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. I don't think we should get too low now. As you say, we need to sign some players, and we obviously don't want to get into a little rut because we have the Newport game as well, and we've obviously got another game coming up quickly. If we win on Tuesday night and we win at the weekend, then it all looks fine again. 1 defeat out of 4 league games is not bad at all. So, yeah, I know it's probably not going to please some people who are still annoyed about the game, and that's fair enough. But for me, I'm honestly not too worried. I'm still annoyed that we lost the game, but I'm not too concerned about the bigger picture here, provided by the time we get to the 31st, there are at least 2 or 3 more in the door. And I think if that's the case, I genuinely think we're going to be okay.
Because I remember actually, so this time last season under Ben Garner, now obviously we beat Derby at home. We got a point away at Accrington in the first game. I think we went up to Sheffield Wednesday and played really well. So we'd thumped Plymouth in that time. But the games like the Sheffield Wednesday game or other, I think there was a couple of other games where we did good stuff and just found we lacked a cutting edge. And that's sort of like in the early stage of the season, that's kind of like, all right, you let that slide for a few games just to see how the team sort of progresses, how they grow into their roles if we do make these signings. Obviously, if that becomes a pattern that's still repeating itself into September and October, that's when it becomes a problem. But it is sort of that early stage of the season, Tash, where we have to try and take the performances as they are and then just hope that they are a sign that we're in the right direction once we get the new signings. That's sort of where we are at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, coming off the back of 2 losses, I think in previous seasons, the people that we would have brought in, I think it's fair to say 9 times out of 10, I wasn't blown away by them. I didn't really think much. I didn't think they were adding that much to the squad. Whereas I wouldn't say that this time. I'd say that every player that we have signed, I've been impressed with. And I think, yeah, you are adding something to the team and you are pushing us in the right direction, which I don't think we've had that for a long time. Even players like Terry Taylor came on at Newport. And yeah, okay, we lost 3-1, but you can tell there's a player there and he likes controlling the game. And yeah, he looks like he'll be really good. So yeah, I think, as you said, it's early days. Look at Plymouth last season. They lost 5-1 to us away, and now they're absolutely flying in the Championship. So it's too early to call what's going to happen. But yeah, I can understand both sides. It's not nice going away and watching your team lose, obviously. But yeah, it's too early to hit panic button, I would say.
Yeah, right. Morning to Dan. He's watching from his sun lounger in Mallorca, trying to stay positive and hoping that the ins and outs happen soon. Dan getting a well-earned break there from his hard job. Paul saying first half we were relegation for the second half we're staying up. Jake said pleasure to meet you yesterday, Lewis, and you, Jake. Yeah, we bumped into each other in Peterborough. Peterborough with a better side in my opinion. We didn't defend short corners properly and distribution was poor. It was not a poor effort, not a top 6 effort as well. Mads is saying I get why Holden and I assume the board want to run the season with a lean squad, but the facts are more teams get promoted with a beefier squad than those that try a lean, mean promotion machine. It's about, if they're going to do that, because obviously a lot of the talk recently, Tom, has been about players going out before others come in, which is fine because there are clearly players in this squad Some of them even came on yesterday. Who I'd be surprised if people were too eager for them to remain part of our hopefully promotion push. But yeah, I know it's about getting the balance right. But I mean, if you're either going to be slightly too heavy or slightly too light, you'd rather be slightly too heavy if you're serious, because it gives you more options.
Yeah, and I think, as Tash said a bit earlier, if given the injuries we've had, if the board are looking at this now and those injuries, maybe that's a good excuse for us to get more players in now, because they're suddenly looking and going, okay, well, actually, as you said, Dean had 16 players to pick from yesterday and had to pick them all or whatever. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think that we know we're short of a striker anyway. I talked about Chuks last week, almost sadly for him, almost taking up a squad position with kind of no output at all. And exactly your point that you made earlier about the bench, about 60, 65 minutes, I was thinking the same. I was like, come on, Holden, change it up. And then I was like, well, actually, if he's turning around and looking at that bench, who's inspiring him to think, yeah, they can make a difference? Sadly for Kirk, I don't think it's him. Carnu probably just not ready yet. So, yeah, we need options and we haven't really got them at the moment. And I think even, someone like Payne, I don't know. I know he had an okay pre-season, had little moments yesterday, but I don't know if we can rely on players that just have moments. And maybe we were over fortunate that last promotion season, 18-19. But you look at the midfield then and who we had in there of, Cullen, Bielik, Aribo, like quality players who've gone on to be so much better. You look at Lyle and Carlin up front, and okay, Lyle's just been released from a Premier League team, but in terms of the quality and what they tried to go on to do, we were just blessed that season. And even then, we only made playoffs. So it shows you what you need in this division, even to just get up there. And I think we've probably got half a squad that are maybe at that level now. Maybe the league is not quite as good as it was that year anyway, but half the squad is not enough. We need more. And if they're going to have to shave the squad first, then it's about moving quickly, because I'm sure there are teams sort of lower down this division or even into League Two that would take players like Charlie Kirk. Obviously, he went on loan last year. So there are players. I'm sure there are clubs that will sign them. But again, you don't want to strip without knowing you can bring somebody else in either, because if you get rid of Kirk and you haven't got someone lined up, then we're even shorter on numbers. So do you keep him around just in case a deal doesn't work out? It's a tricky line to balance. And obviously, as you say, we've only got couple of weeks left to do it now.
Yeah, and Bradley's saying, how long do they leave it? We could be 12 points behind before we get Leeburn fit. We could all see from the Orient game that we need someone alongside May. Using Campbell and Kirk, and it's clear Carnu is nowhere near it. And obviously, we've got no Tyrese Campbell for the next however many weeks, 2, 3, 4, I think Dean says in the interview. Mads is saying, it reminded me of the team we put out against Sunderland away on the first day of 18-19 with the core of a promotion team, but we still need more depth. I'm worried that we can't buy that depth until people leave. I remember that first game up at Sunderland. I don't think I've ever actually admitted this. I was convinced we were going down this season because we went into a season under Rowland, who was completely disinterested, with what started off with 4 or 5 subs out of how many we were allowed. I was panicking, thinking I think we could be in real trouble this season. Luckily, obviously, the way it panned out with the work that Bowen Gallen did in the transfer window meant it was a very different story, and we only got better as the season progressed. Chris saying we were so much better when being on the front foot. Corey was playing another 10, 15 yards up the pitch, and he was dangerous. Kamara was excellent, apart from the error. Ben saying it was the lack of squad depth that cost us yesterday. The effort was there, played some nice football, and was by far the better team in the second half, lacking a target man, and then May will flourish. I mean, obviously, Tash, you did mention it, as you said earlier. We're not going to get too bogged down in Alfie just yet, because I mean, to be fair, he should like the amazing save from Sol Bryn in the first few minutes against Leyton Orient. Then Dobbo nicked his goal against Orient, and then yesterday he had a shot which he might have done a bit better with, but I think the keeper saved it with his feet. Like, there's for all the concerns I have in our squad, Alfie May is not one of them.
No, definitely not. When he came on, and I keep referring back to it, when he came on at Newport, obviously, he was a really late sub. I think this is when we went 3-1 down. We were desperately looking for a goal. He was running behind the goal, going to get the ball, bringing it back to the keeper, just putting himself about. And even when, I think he was on the pitch when we went 3-1 down, was stood on the centre spot, galvanising everybody. And that's someone that's been at the club for, at that point, two games. So he's been there pre-season, but 2 2 competitive games. And we need someone like that, let alone like the goal threat that hopefully will come when I think definitely will come when he has someone playing next to him. He has someone that can help him out instead of trying to get on the end of long balls. I think just as a character in general in the dressing room is someone that we probably need. Like, I think probably towards the end of last season, I didn't feel like there was really any, probably apart from Dobbo, there wasn't really any captain, like leadership sort of characters in that dressing room. And I think if you want to go up, you need someone like May that, I mean, like reading his interviews and listening to his interviews, he has that self-belief in himself that he like is a winner. And that's definitely not something we've had in our dressing room for the last couple of seasons. So yeah, I think it's more than just his goal threat in the end, but yeah, I'm sure it will come good.
Yeah, I'm convinced it will. All Hell Let Loose has put a couple of good questions in the chat. And first of all, I mean, just what did you make of Jack Payne? Start a bench player or move him on, Tom? Pete saying I like Jack Payne, but I think he is a bench player. What did you make of his performance yesterday?
He had some good moments, or some okay moments. He's definitely not a starter, I don't think, but I think he'd be okay as a bench player. He's the sort of player that if he had been on the bench yesterday and you're looking for someone to come in and rough the opposition defence up and sort them out, then, you know, he's going to hassle people and he's going to annoy people and he's going to chase the ball down a bit like Tash was saying about Alfie as well. So, yeah, there are elements of his game that I think actually would be okay. I don't think he's, as I say, I don't think he's a starter necessarily week in, week out for a team that want to go out of this division. But I would try and hang on to him unless, again, we know we're going to get somebody in who's of better quality and it means he has to go out the door, and then I'd have no problem with that. But I thought he did okay yesterday. No, I was telling you off air and probably can't repeat it on air. I didn't think he had as bad a game as the blokes that stood next to me. But I thought he was all right.
Yeah, he's a funny one, Payne. Like, I think in terms of like our players, he looks one of the busiest. But so like you always feel like he's on the verge of doing something really good, but then he never quite does. For me, so you know, I think again, if we're being serious, I think he's absolutely a bench player at best. You know, maybe someone who could come on and add a bit of energy late on in a game. But yeah, we'll see. Dean saying we can't. We need to bring in 2 strikers, not 1. Chucks won't last more than 15 games, leaving us May and Lieburn and another. We need to bring in 2 different forwards for Plan A. And Plan B. Again, it'd be interesting. So I'd be surprised if we bring more than 1. But you know, who knows what's going to happen? Jake saying he thinks that Payne is a bench player who brings energy but takes too many touches to play simple passes and lacks end products. Sue saying I like energy that Jack brings when he comes on. Sid's asking, what did you think of Terrell Thomas yesterday, Tash? Obviously. I wasn't massively infused when we signed him last season. Like he's done a job. It sort of doesn't massively stand out either way for me. What have you made of his time at the club?
Yeah, I think did he come on a free transfer? I'm pretty sure he did, didn't he? Like last season. So
we signed him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, to be fair, when did we spend money last year? But yeah, so considering that and. Obviously we came through Charlton. I was talking to my friend about this the other day, actually. Like, I completely forgot that he was on the bench for us a couple of times, like a few years ago. Like, I didn't make the connection that was him. Obviously, I don't think he ever made an appearance for us, but obviously it's nice having a player that you spoke of has come back and everything. And I think you can see his heart's in the right place as well. Like, he's not one of those players that's come a bit of a passenger like some of the players we've had over the last couple of years. He does want to try, and you can see he does play his heart out every time. Does that mean that he's always 100% effective and always 100% perfect? No. However, I think with the options that we have at the moment, Eden's trying to get up to fitness, isn't he? And on that left-hand side. But no, I think he's okay. I don't think he's like the best option that we could have in that position. But yeah, I like him. I like his attitude. So I think we need someone like that in the squad.
Right, Phil saying more firepower needed. 1 mistake cost us that game. We definitely had enough chances to get something out of it. I think May will shine when he's not having to lead the line alone. And then finally, so there was a question from All Hell Let Loose, which I'm going to float now, and then we'll answer after we hear from Dean Holden. So this is obviously open to everyone in the chat. You know, at the start of the season, people were tipping us outside of Charlton for top 6 after we've seen a couple of games. All hell let loose wants to know, how confident are we that Charlton will be promoted by the end of the season? Is that a question we can answer now as well? Let us know in the comments. Tash and Tom will have their say after we hear from Dean Holden as well. But let's hear from the Addicts boss right now. I spoke to him pitch side after the defeat at London Road. This is what he had to say.
Endeavour in the second half. I guess you feel your side probably should have taken something from today's game.
Yeah, I think so, but it's about both boxes, isn't it? If you don't take your chances, and you're going to find it difficult. I thought the first half they gave us some problems in terms of their set pieces. Other than that, the shape was excellent. The amount of times we won the ball back mid part of the pitch, high up the pitch. We've created some good chances ourselves in open play. I think Panucci's header is a really good save. I think the one when we get Dobbo gets Alfie May in behind and the cut back to Payne, it's travelling and there's a great block. And again, a bit more action around from our set pieces. We didn't quite execute that final header, but to come in at 1-0 at half time was disappointing. It's a really poor goal. I'm finding myself saying that a lot at the moment. There's nothing really between the teams at that point, and you're into injury time, I think, and bounces around on the edge of our box. We should clear it, and obviously they open us up and score from it. And yeah, the mentality was important in the second half. It wasn't about coming in and moping about half time. Yes, we needed to deal with that moment better for their goal, but it certainly came out 20-25 minutes second half. It was one-way traffic, it literally was. Again, we weren't able to put the ball in and find that moment, that final action. But I think they then made some changes. They slowed the game down. They changed the system. The game sort of was fairly even, I think, for probably 10 minutes at that point. And then again, we put the foot to the floor in that last 10-15 minutes and did everything. But score, you have to say. I mean, Alfie's got in there and a really good save again from the keeper with his feet. Corey 3 or 4 times has got on the angle and we just weren't able to just find that moment. You can see by the reaction of our fans at the end. I think they'd be proud of that performance. I'm not talking about the result. I was disappointed we are, but certainly it's a performance I can relate to. And I think most people inside the stadium today would agree we should have got something, but we didn't. And then it's important that we bounce back on Tuesday.
I guess Peterborough were clinical when their chance came. Is that something you expect Charlton will sort of improve as the season sort of grows into itself? Of
course, and they've hit the post late on, haven't they, through Clark House. They've had 1 or 2 moments. Ash has smothered one. We're completely gung-go at that point, trying to get something from the game. So you've got to remember, Louis, that the key players that we're missing in that final part of the pitch, aren't we? When obviously Miles and Chuck's not quite ready yet. Tyrese Campbell and Scotty have been a big miss for us, you have to say. So we've not really got that focal point, have we? So we're having to play a slightly different style in terms of we can't just sometimes play off the front. We found that a little bit through Nathan Sinway in the first half. But yeah, no complaints in terms of the performance at all. We just need to make sure that we execute a little bit better in that final moment when we get in and around the box.
You try and take that as a useful barometer for the season as well. I guess most will look from the outside that Peterborough will be expected to be in the upper half of the table at least.
They're a good team, aren't they? You can see they've lost 2 key players from last season's playoff campaign, but they've obviously recruited well in them 2 positions. I think they finished 15 points in front of us last season, so it was always going to be a real tough test for us. But like I said there, anybody in this stadium, particularly for that second half, I would have said there's really nothing between the teams. In fact, we were on the front foot. And, I don't think it was a case of them sitting off the game because they were 1-0 up. Far from it. I think we literally took the game to them, but didn't quite find the moment. And it's the hardest thing to do in football is score a goal. So there you go.
It's frustrating that this early stage of the season, the injuries started to mount up a bit already. Scott and Tyrese, you mentioned earlier on today. What can you tell us about Scott's injury in particular? Because I'm not sure what it actually is.
He's picked something up in his calf right towards the end of the game there against Leyton Orient. So it's going to be a number of weeks, Scott. It's not going to be something that we'll have him back in the next couple of weeks, certainly. So we'll have to keep seeing how that is and how he recovers from it. Tyrese, we're hopeful it won't be as bad as Scott is, with maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever with Tyrese. Again, we'll have to see. But yeah, they've been two big misses for us. They both played really well late on last week. But you know me, Louis, no excuses. We go again on Tuesday. 2 home games now in a week. Looking forward to seeing our fans back at the Valley getting behind us, and we'll hopefully get them a win.
Yeah, just a couple weren't in the squad today. Obviously, Terry played on Tuesday, Terry Taylor, and not about today. And no DJ as well. We haven't seen for a while. What's up with those?
Terry just felt something in his knee after the. Well, he sort of reported it Wednesday morning, really, when he woke up, and we looked into it, and thankfully there's nothing sort of to be too worried about on the scan, but he's just feeling a little bit in his knee, so wasn't available today. We'll see how he is when we get back to London. DJ's felt something in his back a couple of days ago, so unfortunately not available for us.
It's been the luck that you've had so far in terms of injuries. I just wanted to talk about the amount of yellow cards today. Obviously yourself and your opposite number are also in there, but I mean, I guess there's probably a little bit of getting used to in terms of the new rules in terms of giving chat back to the referee, because we've seen a couple from Alfie, I think, already this season. Is that something the players are going to have to get used to? They're not lenient at all now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the rule changes, and there's always a big emphasis on new rule changes when they make them, and the assessor in the stand will be judging his officials on that, and they're doing everything right by the book. So I didn't quite see Alf as I turned away. I don't know if it was dissent or he kicked the ball away. Yeah, exactly. So he needs to learn from that. That's cheap, and we can't be having that. They're the silly ones that you have to avoid. I've watched a lot of football in this last week or so, and on the television as well, and I've yet to watch a game where someone in the dugout's not been booked. I think that's way over the top. I think Darren, to be fair, I asked the fourth. Darren got booked for sort of that simulating that we should have got a yellow card, and I think that in the rule book is absolutely booking nowadays. I just questioned fairly, because I'm a qualified referee myself, and I think you have to respect the officials. I just questioned why there was only 6 minutes. I think everybody in the ground was amazed at that one. So it is a bit, I don't think it was a game. It was a competitive game. It was a game that was right on the edge, but I don't think it was 12 bookings in the game.
Something along those lines.
It's getting ridiculous, isn't it, really? But something we have to get used to.
Yeah, finally, as you say, obviously Bristol coming up on Tuesday night, big chance to hopefully try and build on elements of that performance today. I mean, is there likely to be anyone back from injury in the short term?
Maybe one of the guys, yeah. Obviously, won't tell you who just yet for the opponent, but hopefully there'll be maybe one back. We'll see. Having said that, there might be one or two from today that might not make it. So we're a little bit light at the moment. We're obviously working hard to continue to improve the team and the squad. These things take time, unfortunately, so we have to, for now, go with what we've got, and make sure that we bounce back on Tuesday.
Thinking about a new kitchen or bathroom? Find professional, independent local installers with free home surveys, itemised quotes and protected payments, trading standards approved contracts, and workmanship warranties. The British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom, Bathroom Installations accredits installers to ensure they are police checked, fully insured and experienced. Take the risk out of home improvement. Visit bikbbi.org.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. Just before the adverts there, we heard from the Addicts boss, Dean Holden, after yesterday's 1-0 defeat up at London Road. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the amount of yellow cards yesterday, and particularly Alfie's picked up a couple for I think it was kicking the ball away last week, and yesterday it was punching the ball away, and I think out of frustration rather than giving chat back to the ref, which is what I actually said in the interview. But I mean, I don't know if you've seen the clip of the Rotherham geezer getting sent off yesterday for simulating a yellow card. It's really, they are not messing about now. I'm shocked that we didn't see a red card at least yesterday. Right, Jacob and Carl are going to be our guests. They're in the weight room. They're going to join us in a few moments' time. But I did say before the interview there with Dino about all hell let loose his question about are we a promotion side now? So Tash, I'll throw it to you first. What's your view? And obviously you will be held to this at the end of the season. So if you're wrong, you are kicked off the show. So tread carefully.
Yeah, I can't wait for this to come back to haunt me. Yeah, I think the squad that played yesterday, no, I don't think we'd get in the top 6. However, obviously that's very injury ridden / missing 2 or 3 signings. You think when you get Leeburn, Fraser and all those other players back plus more, if you're thinking that's against Peterborough, that it's easy to forget that really they should have been at Wembley last season if it weren't for their capitulation at Hillsborough. So really, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I think, yes, I think we will be in the top 6. I don't think we're going to be top 2. Like Tom said, the promotion side that got us up in 2019, we only then finished third in the playoff places. And look at how good that team was. So, yes, I'm going to be positive and say we are going to go up, but it'll be through the playoffs. I don't think we've quite got the depth that we need to finish in the top 2, because we all know what Charlton do. They get loads of injuries and it's a long old season. So, yeah, I'll go top 6.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Again, it really depends on what happens between now and the end of August, Tom. So that's why it is quite a hard time to answer this question. You know, you have to throw in those caveats, but I don't know. I feel like you're more confident, Tom, based on what I've seen you saying online and what you said on the show so far this season.
Yeah, obviously, in terms of on the pitch, there's only 180 minutes to go on. I know there's the Newport game as well, but I'm not going to read too much into the League Cup. Personally, I think this squad is good enough for a top 6 this season, and I go back to the point that the league is not as good as it was then. When I say it's good enough, that doesn't mean we'll necessarily guaranteed to get one. I think if we make 3 or 4 signings, I'd be shocked if we didn't make it into the top 6 at that point. At the moment, if we finish 7th or 8th, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think there's enough quality in there, definitely. I think if Alfie May clicks, we're suddenly looking at 20 odd goals from him, potentially. I think if Corey continues this form, then we're in a good place there. And kind of going back to Tash's point about Fraser and just generally the point around that midfield settling, I think that's a midfield that can go on and finish in the top 6. It just needs to settle and needs to get consistent. So, yeah, I think we need to manage the injuries. I think we need Miles back. But I think if we weren't to sign anybody else at all, and I obviously hope that isn't the case, but if we weren't, I still think this squad is capable of getting top 6. It's just going to be much harder to do it. If we get 3 or 4 more, I think then top 6 should be our minimum expectation this season, and we should hold them to that if they fail to deliver on it.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, I would say if the squad doesn't change between now and the end of the August, I think there's no chance we get top 6. We need reinforcements just because we've seen with our injury record and where we are currently that we are extremely short. You know, almost immediately. There was an interesting stat I noticed yesterday. Because I think it was Tom who asked me when the last time we came from behind to win a game was, which it turns out was about 2 years ago. It was in February 22. When Jacko was manager, we beat Wimbledon at home, having been 1-0 down after about 3 minutes. But also, our record in terms of coming from behind is awful. So, like in the last 47 or 48 games now, we've rescued 10 draws and 1 win and lost the rest. Like it's a weird sort of mentality issue with us, but. It also didn't really feel like it was relevant yesterday because that's the sort of stat you have to bring up when you go behind and you fall apart. And obviously that wasn't quite the case yesterday, Tash. But that was certainly a problem I had last season. When we'd concede 1, we'd go on and fall apart and concede 2. So it would almost be useful to have a result where we have fallen behind just to show the grit that Dean will expect from his side. But like I say, yesterday there was a bit of it. So maybe it's a weird time to be bringing it up.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think like games like Ipswich last season, obviously when we came back to draw 4-4, that was exactly the sort of attitude that, you know, okay, it didn't translate yesterday, but you could feel that was there, that once. We're not just going to put our heads down and give up. Like when we conceded the second half majority of it, we were going for that goal. It just didn't come off. And as Tom said on another day, that shot that went wide, I think it was from back at Taylor, might have gone in the back of the net. But yeah, obviously you brought up earlier, Louis, that Sheffield Wednesday away last year, we went 1-0 down. And to be honest, I thought we were the better side in that game at Hillsborough. But it was kind of a similar story to this year where their depth in their squad was the reason why they could go and get that win and why they could see that win out, because we lost our legs because we were all knackered, because they had plenty of options from the bench. So, but yeah, hopefully I think yesterday was a sign that we are moving more towards the Ipswich end and being more keen and fighting back in games and not just, oh, we've gone 1-0 down and yeah, we might as well just go home at that point.
Right, the comments are coming in on the promotion question. Sue saying, I'm still confident of promotion as long as we get those few more bodies in that we've discussed. Graham saying, we've got a top 6 team when everyone is available, but only a mid-table squad with our current injuries. Sam said, hopefully one of the players who won't be available isn't Dobbo due to the amount of running. So, yeah, that'll be interesting on Tuesday night. Pete saying, I think we could scrape 5th or 6th place. I get the feeling we are in for a season of a lot of draws over the last couple of seasons. How many times have we conceded stupid goals late on in games? Or even yesterday, we conceded a stupid goal halfway through a game, of course. Paul's saying we have to assume that the players being brought in are going to be of the standard to make the playoffs. And again, that's got to be proven because, you know, we've had, you know, players coming in that feel like good quality so far. May, Kamara are the ones that stand out for me. But obviously, that's got to be backed up. It's pointless signing Alfie May if you're not going to back it up. That's one thing that we should say. Charlie said, I wouldn't say there's no chance of top 6 if we don't make additions. Rather, it would be the absolute best outcome. So, yeah, I get what you're saying there. All hell let loose saying, do we need a fatter squad to take into account the increased number of yellow cards and the follow-on suspensions? Yeah, maybe that's something that people need to think about. And also, like the fact that games are about are consistently over 100 minutes long now, that will take its toll in terms of fatigue and that sort of stuff. Sam saying, if we don't sign anymore, then I can't see us making the top 6. As we know, we will have players picking up injuries, and look at the bench yesterday's. And finally, Michael says, fingers crossed we are getting the injuries out of the way early this season. We are good enough with the squad we have, but that's if everyone stays fit. Well, let's find out what some other people think of our chances of promotion this season, shall we say. Let's bring in our guests this morning. Jacob and Carl Bratton are joining us on Charlton Live. Jacob appears to be a spitting image of mini George Dobson, as we can see there. Morning, chaps. How you doing on this fine Sunday morning?
Good, yeah?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Great to have you both on the show. I mean, Jacob, obviously you've been put forward to be the spokesman for the group. So tell us what you made of yesterday's game and how you're feeling about our chances of promotion this season.
I thought the first half was quite scrappy from both teams, but then I thought we played a lot better second half. Corey was running at the fullback a lot more than he did in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll ask you the same question that we just asked the listeners earlier on that was put to us by All Hell Let Loose. How do you rate our promotion chances at this early stage of the campaign?
I think we're still going to go up.
Yeah, I mean, are there any areas of the side that you think we'd need to improve between now and the end of the window?
I think we probably need another striker if Leeburn's going to be out for a bit, and then Chucks is always getting injured. So just another striker to back him up.
I think Jacob's got us down as champions by April.
Yeah, well, I'm loving the confidence. It's always the younger ones who are more confident for some reason because they haven't lived through the misery yet, unfortunately, Carl. Obviously, you were there yesterday as well. Tell us about your thoughts on yesterday's game, and I guess the same question actually. Do you think we're in a position to challenge at this moment in time?
Yeah, I thought we started all right. I thought after the first 10, 15 minutes, they got through our press a little bit too easily. And then started creating chances. And I think they'd obviously worked hard at corners. They knew exactly what they were going to do. And as you say, we were lucky not to go one down from one of them. Silly mistake for the goal. But we did bounce back second half. And Corey seemed to be much more at them. In the first half, you say he didn't really want to attack their fullback. But second half, he looked a lot better. The amount of times that we get the ball and cut it back, we just don't seem to be having enough runners to get into there at the moment. Obviously, we scored last week from one, but we just couldn't get to fall to one of ours yesterday. So I agree with Jacob. I think we need another man up top.
Yeah, but so Tom said earlier he thought even if we stuck with pretty much a similar squad to what we've got now, Carl, that he thinks we could be playoff challengers. I mean, do you think we're thereabouts based on what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I'm going to be the negative one out of the group. I think still kind of 8th or 9th for this. I think we need a couple of bodies in. My worry becomes that we always kind of talk, don't we, about waiting until the end of the window. And there's a lot of pressure on those last 2.5 weeks. So it's, as you said, it kind of all depends on the quality that we get in. If we get the quality, I think we can. But if we don't, then I think it'll be kind of 8th or 9th.
Yeah. Now you two are sort of consistent away day attenders there. You get to a lot of games, home and away. Jacob, what's the best thing you enjoy about following Charlton away? Because even for me yesterday, like obviously disappointed we lost, but the train back where I bumped into you guys and obviously had to endure sitting next to Nathan for a little bit. Like that things like that do sort of make the day. So I mean, tell us about your away day experience yesterday, Jacob.
We were really loud. I like it when we're loud. I couldn't hear any of the Peterborough fans. The only time I heard them is when they scored, and that was it really. Yeah.
So obviously we had young Sydney on last year with her dad, and she was certainly more positive than I was at that time last season in terms of actually enjoying the day and you know sort of looking up to the players as well. So obviously you've styled your hair on George Dobson. Is he your favourite in the squad at the moment? Is he the sort of character that you like to see in a Charlton shirt?
Yeah, easily. I think him and Kamara are really good in midfield as well.
Yeah. So what have you made of Kamara then? Obviously a new signing for us. Made the mistake yesterday, but actually he brings a lot of energy to the side, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, after the game, he held his hands up, and that's good because not a lot of players do that.
Excellent stuff. And
He looks so
finally,
natural on the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah, like I say, he's got like really quick feet as well, which is nice to see. So I mean, just finally, Carl. Then obviously, we're trying to avoid talking too much about ownership because we're trying to just concentrate on football. But I mean, what have you made of the first month or so? Are you confident they'll sort of back Dean Holden to the extent that he needs before the end of the window, the new lot?
I think Dean seems fairly comfortable with him, doesn't he? I think that's the gauge that I'm going to take at the moment. He obviously knows them, was brought in by them and had a relationship with them. I think we've been burnt a few too many times, so I'm not going to sit and be too confident yet. I think we just have to wait and see. Let's see what the month brings and see if we can get some support, the players that we need.
Yeah, it will be a really telling 2.5 weeks, I think, and we'll see where we are come the end of August. But as people have said, there's still points to play for in between now and then. Jacob and Carl, thank you so much for joining us on Charlton Live as our guest this morning. I look forward to bumping into you guys at home and away games in the future.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, thanks very much. That's Jacob and Carl Bratton, who were this morning's guests on Charlton Live. We should look ahead to Bristol. Rovers coming up. I said City there. I forgot we're not in the Championship. Coming up on Tuesday, Tom. So I've spoken about injuries. So as we heard in the interview there, Dean said we might get one back, but maybe there'll be one or two who played yesterday who won't be able to feature on Tuesday. So I'm assuming it'll be people who haven't played a great deal of football recently. So that could mean Pan Kamara. It might be someone that we can't risk Tuesday. I mean, is there? There's not a great deal of manoeuvrability, but is there any sort of like changes you'd like to see at least?
I guess the only one would have been if we could maybe rotate Payne out and bring somebody in. But look, it's not like he even did that badly yesterday. It's just you want somebody like him on the bench. I think, as most people have said in the comments when we were discussing him earlier. But particularly if Pan's going to have to be rested, then there just isn't anybody. Like you said, there was nobody spare. So in an ideal world, if you're asking me, was there players I'd like to bring in? Yeah, I'd like Leeburn to be in. I'd like Scott Fraser to be in, but it can't happen at the moment. So yeah, it's not going to be easy. I was just looking and they've already had to play Barnsley and Portsmouth, I think, in their opening 2 games. So it's been a tough start for them. And I'm hoping this will be another tough game for them. But at the moment we are stretched thin and it's very unlikely we're going to get somebody in tomorrow. So we're probably looking at picking from pretty much the same group as we were yesterday. And as you say, I'd be surprised if Pan can certainly play another 90 minutes, but maybe he can be on the bench and be somebody that can be brought on and do 15 minutes at the end if we need to. Maybe Kanu would get an opportunity, but again, I don't think he's quite there yet. So sadly, no, I just don't think we've got the players at the moment to rotate. So it's probably going to be pretty much the same sort of lineup as we saw yesterday.
Yeah, unbeaten in League One so far. Bristol Rovers 2-1 all draws. As you said, with Pompey down at Fratton Park and then at home to Barnsley yesterday. I mean, we saw a really tight game with them towards the end of last season, Tash, when obviously the season was over for us anyway. It didn't really make a great deal of difference. Obviously, Tom, you didn't see it. You got to enjoy sitting on a coach for a few hours instead. What sort of challenge? I mean, when we look at and no one likes hearing this phrase, but we have if we're serious, we have to beat teams like Bristol Rovers at home. So again, these sort of early season fixtures are all really interesting barometers to see how you go up against someone like Leyton Orient, who got absolutely thumped at home yesterday by Portsmouth. Someone like obviously a Peterborough side who we expect will be in and around. Someone like Bristol Rovers who will tend to be sort of mid-table fodder. And you see how you sort of balance up against these sides, and it obviously you're not going to win every game, but not putting in a more dominant performance and not looking like you're going to beat a Bristol Rovers side could again be an indication of where we actually are compared to where we think and hope we are.
Yeah, as you said, like Bristol Rovers, they're the type of mid-table teams. I think they finished 17th last season. They're the type of teams that you have to be beating again, particularly at home. So I think we lost 2-1 to them last season, didn't we, at the Valley? I seem to remember that. But and obviously, they've not blown teams away in their first couple of fixtures, but they obviously have a goal threat. They can score goals, which we've only done once the last 3 fixtures. So I think it'd be good, actually quite a good test for us, as you said. Like, they're obviously capable. Give our new wing back system a good test on Tuesday and see how they get on. But yeah, we have to be beating teams like that. I think like last season and the season before, like when you lose to teams like that, like Accrington, like Port Vale, like those sort of teams at home, you're not going to go up. But you can have them, like, obviously it's the beginning of the season. If we do lose them on Tuesday, it's not the end of the world. But if you look back over the end of the season and you look back, you think these are the performances you think, okay, yeah, that was a big indicator we weren't going to go on and do what we wanted. But yeah, fingers crossed. I think it'd be nice, Alpha Bay to get a goal, just for us to score in general would be good. But yeah, a draw isn't the worst thing, but I think if you're wanting to push a promotion, you need to win these games at home. So yeah, 3 points or bust, basically.
Yeah, Pete, coming back to our transfer chat earlier, says if we are getting a fatter squad, can we sign Razor Ruddock as a defender? He would certainly add some of that. I mean, Mads was talking about a beefier squad earlier. He would certainly supply that. Asimwe, all hell let loose, saying perhaps Asimwe was feeling his injury, expecting him to play 3 games in a week seems a big ask. But yeah, who else can we play? Like, so obviously Manny's injured, Chin's injured. Is there anyone else that can fit in right back? Like, DJ's injured, apparently. Honestly, I'm really not sure where we go with that. I mean, Dan saying Teo Eden can play in midfield as well, just to let you know. But if he plays, I guess you could sort of play alongside, like if Corey stays at left wing. But then who do we bring off the bench when Corey gets tired? Or it really is a headache that we don't really want to be having at this stage of the season, and it does show that it would have been nicer to get more business done earlier on in the campaign. I mean, Dan is saying we could call up some of the under 21s like Santos and Ryler, but that's always a nice idea. But when it actually comes to putting it into fruition, Tom, like some of these youngsters, it can be really difficult for them to come into senior football, and we can't overly rely on too many, because that's where problems sort of stem from, really.
Yeah, and maybe we have to fill the bench, going back to that Sunderland example from a few seasons ago. But yeah, I think throwing them into the first 11, probably not. I think as well, I probably should have asked Carl this when he was on, because I think it was him that was tweeting about the change in shape as well, potentially. And maybe that's an option. Maybe if we can move some players around and play a different shape. I think long term, Dean very much wants to stick to this formation, but yeah, maybe in the short term there is a way to switch things around so that we can get players in and play them. I saw somebody mention McGrandles as well. Again, not a player that I particularly want to have to come in, but at the same time, we've seen he is capable in this division. I don't think we've seen it yet, but at other clubs they have. So if we need to take someone like Kamara out, that means maybe somebody like him has to come in. And as a home fan, that probably doesn't get you that excited. But he's in the squad. He's a functional player, and that's the sort of thing maybe we're going to have to do whilst we kind of juggle this injury crisis. It's bizarre. I can't remember how many years I've been doing the show now, but we seem to have a crisis like this every year. But I don't think it's ever come after 1 or 2 league games before. And already to have 5 first teamers out is crazy, but that's where we are. So it's not going to be an inspiring selection on Tuesday night, simply because there's not a lot Dean can do. His hands are pretty much tied, and the hope is, as you say, then once that game's out of the way, we've got just over 2 weeks and we get some players in at that point. But I still think the squad and the players that he's going to select are capable enough of beating a Bristol Rovers team. So, I don't think we should hold that up as an excuse if we were to not get 3 points to go, but we didn't have our full squad. We should still go there and maybe not expect, but definitely think we can win the game. It's just going to be a little bit tougher than it would be, as I say, if we had the likes of Leeburn and Fraser and some of those others playing. But it is what it is, I guess.
Stephen's saying Pompey winning 4-0 at Orient tells you where we are at the moment. Maybe 13th. Right, we've run out of time on this week's Charlton Live. Thanks to everyone who's joined us live on the YouTube stream. Don't forget to check out our merchandise or charltonlive.etsy.com. We've got our Charlton Live mugs, of which we've been drinking out of today, based on classic kits. So make sure you go and get yourselves one of those. Massive thanks to Jacob and Carl, who are our guest fans earlier on in the show. Really enjoyed that. So great to meet you guys yesterday and great to have you on the stream today. Thank you as well to Tash and Tom. Been an absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, both.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
Lovely stuff. Thanks to everyone, like I say, who's joined us live on YouTube or listening to the podcast afterwards. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube as well. I think we're really close to the 1,000 subscribers now, which is sort of like a target I've set myself. So if you're watching the video now, just hit subscribe and then we'll hit 1,000. Then I'll be really happy. And you just want to make me happy, don't you? Right. Thanks for listening. Thank you to our sponsors, of course, the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. I'm Louis Mendez. We'll be back on Thursday with the big match preview. I look forward to seeing you guys then.